This evening I'm at a Runza at 40th and Randolph Street. Now this Runza is a lot different than some of the other ones I visited because this one does not have a dining room. But then again, during this pandemic, none of them have dining rooms anyway. So this one has something that those others do not. That's right, a walk-up and order window. So I'm gonna try that out tonight, and I'm also gonna try their chicken tenders because I realize I have not had any of their chicken yet. And unlike when I normally zoom in on like the part of their awning that says chicken fingers, well, I don't think this one has it. So you're just gonna have to view this shot of me zooming in on their walk-up window. There it is. I am so glad to be in the shade for this review. It is 94 degrees outside. And so this, I know you probably can't tell, but that is a very good thing. So first of all, we've got the bag of chicken strips, and here is what they look like. There you go. Unlike that ice cream, I can actually take my time reviewing these, and my first thought is, wow, these are hot. Like, almost that I can't keep holding this bag normally because they are that hot, which I guess is good. It is very fresh. Strong start. And of course, I've also got my Runza Ranch right here. Some standard looking stuff. This stuff is absolutely legendary. Their social media loves it. The question is, will I? So I always like to try things on their own first before I, start getting the sauces involved. So let's see what one of these things is like. Let me give you a little commercial style dipping close up here. Oh yeah, there you go. Look at that. Look at that. Oh man, I'm burning my hands right now because it is actually very hot. But yes, this is a glorious sight to any Midwesterner. So update, the Runza Ranch is indeed worth the hype. Honestly surprised they haven't bottled this yet, as popular as it is here in Nebraska. Maybe they have and I just haven't found it, but definitely a step above your typical hidden valley. It might just be because the coolness of that ranch with these absolutely steaming hot chicken tenders is what creates that combination, but you know what? The chicken tenders on their own, not bad, just hot. You add in the ranch though, now we got some flavor. So pretty much twice a year, right before track starts and right before cross country starts, I have a big Mardi Gras meal of boneless wings at Applebee's, all you can eat. And those are kind of pricey. I mean, you got like $12.99 and someone's got to serve it to you. These, the chicken on their own, if you could douse this in ranch and barbecue, now I don't have the barbecue sauce part, but you can make some really killer boneless wings out of this stuff. That I would like to try. In fact, once we get to like stop 80, I'm running out of ideas. I might have to try that. So take a look at the size of this thing. Like this right here, this could be a meal that like you could cut with a knife and a fork. Maybe like, a senior meal. I wouldn't exactly say I'd call this a meal, but this is a good sized chicken tender right here. So when they say like, I don't even know how many pieces, yeah, they're a 4-piece, but like a 4-piece looking like this, I'll take it. Now, the more I start eating these chicken tenders, I do notice that the grease kind of starts to build up a little bit, and maybe that's because I'm taking big bites and, it is hot and whatever, so I can't give them super high marks. But overall, I would probably give these a 7 out of 10, which is, again, a very, very solid rating. And, it's definitely giving me that idea. Smother in barbecue sauce, add the ranch, boneless wings, way cheaper than Applebee's. So I'll be trying that like episode 80. But anyway, that is how I feel about those boneless wings. Thanks for watching this Runza review. For my interview at this episode, as you probably saw in the intro, I'm talking to State Senator Adam Morfeld, who represents the 46th District in the Nebraska Legislature. That district includes UNL and the apartments where I'm going to be living next year, so it's kind of cool to get to talk to my state senator. Also, he's appeared on Rachel Maddow. He has a blue check on Twitter, so, kind of a big deal. Also, this interview looks a little bit different because it's a Zoom call. Wasn't able to get to see him in person, but you'll see I am doing my Zoom call from a Walmart parking lot. But hey, it works out great, so I hope you enjoy this interview. I know you just announced a run for county attorney.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
I did.
Could you tell me a little bit about why you decided to run for county attorney at this time?
Yeah, well, I mean, a few different reasons. One, I think that unless, we have criminal justice reform and the right people that are the top law enforcement officials deciding whether or not people are charged with crimes or not, um, until we have changes in those offices, we're not going to have substantive criminal justice reform, quite frankly. And we're also not going to have disparate impact on people in communities of color with the criminal justice system until we have the right people in those prosecutors' offices. So that's one reason. The other reason, quite frankly, is in the last 6 years that I've served on the Judiciary Committee, so the committee that has jurisdiction over all criminal justice laws. In the last 6 years I've served on that committee, quite frankly, I have found that the most important actors in our criminal justice system are prosecutors because they have an enormous amount of discretion, but very little transparency and accountability, at least in Nebraska. So I want to change that.
Okay, and now another thing, I know you just got back from the Judiciary Committee hearing in Omaha, and I was curious if you could tell me from that entire day of listening to the complaints, like, was there anything that stood out, any trends that you noticed that a lot of people kept bringing up time and time again?
So I was taking a lot of notes on my computer with that, and we had it both in Omaha and Lincoln, actually. So Monday was Omaha, Tuesday was Lincoln, and it was really, I mean, quite frankly, some of the most compelling testimony I'd seen in my 6 years in the legislature and in Judiciary Committee. In terms of themes, that, we have a problem with racism in Nebraska still. I mean, we heard from grandparents, from veterans, from teachers and educators who were people of color and Black Americans who were saying, listen, racism is alive and well, and it's still a problem. We need to address it. And then also, quite frankly, use of force during protests. That was a theme too. We really need to examine our use of force practices and policies during protests. And we need to ensure that we have better oversight, independent community oversight of policing, because you can't have community policing unless the community has some kind of oversight that's substantive over police.
All right, now, since you are part of the Judiciary Committee in the state legislature, what are some of those criminal justice laws that you are fighting, or bills that you're fighting to make law, or some things that you've done in the past to help increase the racial equality and justice?
Yeah, so first off, in the past, we've done a lot more with community corrections. Unfortunately, it has not been executed and carried out the way that I would like to see. But in any case, we've done some of that, continuing to support ending cash bail for minor nonviolent offenses. In addition, making sure that we end mandatory minimums. That doesn't give the amount of discretion that judges and other folks need, quite frankly, to make those decisions. But then also, quite frankly, we need to introduce a lot more legislation, providing more independent oversight of police departments, making it so that we have better use of force standards and policies, requiring anti-bias training for healthcare officials and law enforcement officials. And then, quite frankly, establishing, the African American Commission. We have a Native American Commission. We have a Hispanic Commission. I think in Nebraska, we need to have a commission that's focused on Black Americans and African Americans and their needs.
So is that commission like within the legislature, or like how is?
Be within the state government. So it's its own independent commission that does research studies, investigations, and other things. And so I think that would really provide the necessary capacity and then also the resources and funding to address some of the issues that are systemic in our communities and our society in Nebraska.
Interesting. So there's Hispanic and Native American, but they don't have an African American commission currently.
They don't. And Senator Wayne introduced legislation this year, actually. All the years are blurring together now with COVID, but this year. And so there's actually a pending bill that we can advance.
All right. So why should people care about what goes on in the state legislature?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, most of the laws and the rules that we live by day to day are impacted by either local or state laws. Obviously, there's some big, broad federal ones that have a big impact, but most of the things governing whether you can be in that parking lot right now and how you drove to that parking lot are, quite frankly, decisions that are made on the local and state level. So if you're concerned about college tuition, that's a primarily a state level type of decision. If you're concerned about your entertainment options, trails, public safety, that's primarily a local government decision that is also decided by how much power you have on the state level, right? So, I mean, people should care about the state legislature and local government, because I would venture to guess that 75% of all the laws that govern our lives are dictated by that. And so, on a day-to-day basis anyway, obviously you have the broad construct and framework of the federal constitution and federal government, but the day-to-day stuff, largely local and state.
Yeah, and then finally, I know that you are one of the, on the younger side of the state lawmakers. How can you encourage other young people to get involved in local and state governments, and kind of talk about the importance of voting for them?
Yeah, so, the number one issue that we face in Nebraska is keeping young people in the state. And so I don't think young Nebraskans understand how much political power they have. And I also don't think they understand how well received they are by older Nebraskans when they get involved in the process and run for office. I thought when I was going door to door and I was 27, 28, I thought, oh man, the biggest thing they're going to be like is like, you look like you're 19, like, what are you doing? In fact, most people were really excited that there was a young person that was excited about getting involved. So it was the opposite of what I anticipated. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, it's so incredibly important, because all the decisions that we're making now will oftentimes set the rules of the road for us for the next 20, 30, 40 years. And so we have the biggest stake because we're going to be around a lot longer, right? And so we're going to have to live with these decisions. So that's really important. The third thing is like, it's not rocket science getting involved or running for office. You really need to just simply find a candidate or a political party that you identify with, get involved with that and see if you like it. And if you like it, you'll learn the skills necessary to run for office and the right people to meet. And so, it's just incredibly important that we have more younger people in the decision-making roles. And if people don't invite you to the table, just grab a folding chair and pull a seat right up.
All right, and then finally, kind of ending on a little lighter note, do you have a favorite menu item at Runza?
Oh, at Runza? Oh, I'm a big fan of the cheesy Runza. That's my favorite, and then their fries are really good. So that's usually how I roll.
Well, thanks for listening to that interview, and check back in for my next episode where I'm heading down to South Lincoln at the 27th and Pine Lake Runza, where I'll try out a side salad and also talk to some protesters who made their way to a march in the south side of Lincoln. Thanks for watching episode 10.